My name is Banita Teixeira. I served in the United States Navy from 1998 to 2007. My rate and rank at the time of discharge was Operations Specialist E5.
Every veteran has a story of sacrifice, courage, humor, and heartache. Each week, Veteran Story Hour captures these remarkable stories firsthand in the voices of those who've served. Recorded live from the weekly Friday brunch in the Saluda, Virginia studio in Waynesboro, this is more than a podcast. It's a living history, preserving the legacy of America's heroes. You're listening to Veteran Story Hour, Voices of Valor, presented by Saluda, Virginia. Let's begin. Some strength is loud. It wears medals. It marches in formation. It salutes. And then there's the other kind. The kind passed down in whispers, in sayings from grandmothers born just 45 years after slavery, in Louisiana swamp air thick with memory, in women who survived things no one wrote down. Before she ever wore a Navy uniform, Banita Teixeira already knew something about endurance. By 15, she was standing on her own. By 18, she was standing in formation. By 20, she was standing in places most people only see in headlines. She served on a carrier in the Gulf, felt the world shift on 9/11, lived in a floating city of 5,000 souls, an island in the middle of water, hoping no one aimed for the biggest target in sight. She learned about leadership, about giving just enough rope, about the difference between doers and talkers. And then she learned something harder: how to step away. 8 years and 10 months into a Navy career, close enough to taste retirement, she chose her daughters instead. Because service doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it packs lunches. Sometimes it waits by the mailbox for letters from Paris Island. Sometimes it raises a sheepdog, chooses the Marines. This isn't just a story about the military. It's a story about inheritance, about faith, about women who don't break, they endure. Ladies and gentlemen, Banita Teixeira. I felt really called to do these things and capture these stories because I would give anything just to hear my great-grandfather or my great-grandmother talk about literally anything, what they thought, what the bullshit was that they dealt with on a day-to-day basis. And for me, it was too, is when I really became old enough to be cognizant. My dad was 36 years old, right? That was how old he was when I finally was like, okay, I know how old my dad is, kind of a thing.
I get it.
Well, I'm 37 now. You know how valuable it would be to hear what my dad was thinking when he was now my age? What were you thinking when you were raising kids and worried about paying the mortgage and doing all this? Like, I would love to have heard your thoughts on any of these things. So that's the idea.
I want to hear my great-grandmother talk about beating my granny.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, is the lady who beat me my entire life, like, I would love to know what went through her mind of her mom beating her. Because I know she was wild.
You know what's funny, though? For us to be having this exact conversation just this Sunday, this past Sunday, I spoke in church. And it was basically, the subject was how trials can strengthen you. But in the middle of that, I was telling them about a saying my grandmother used to tell me, my mother's mother. My father's side, I don't know anything about. They weren't a part of my life. So anytime I reference family members, it's usually from my mom's side. But my grandmother used to say, a hard head make a soft behind. And need a bug. You keep playing with the Lord, He's going to put you on your back so you can look up to the sky. Meaning, get out of your own way, and don't wait until things are so bad that you have to establish that connection, that relationship with him. But because I shared that, it led me to share about the two of them. I was fortunate enough to have my great grandmother in my life. She died at 97 in 2007, born 1910. So 45 years after slavery ended. So in the rural Louisiana swamps of Natchitoches
Oh my
along the
gosh.
Cane River. So it's talk about stories and
Talk about stories.
trials and tribulations and growing and still being able to establish a faith toward a God that would allow them to live in that era. Like it was such a profound thing to have those two women and their perspectives of life and stuff. So it's funny that you guys are use that analogy.
Hey, I'm telling you, I'd give anything because I know like my granny, grew up in the Great Depression because she was born in 1920, somewhere in that neighborhood, and just even to the day she died, she had like cases of green beans underneath her bed.
Oh wow!
And because she knew like there might be a time that I might need these. And so that was always her thing. She would always be prepared. And my mom would be pissed about it because she would go clean like her room because she used to spend her time. Half of it would be here and then the other half would be in Texas with my uncle's family.
Okay.
And my cousins. And so she would come back and forth. She'd spend 6 months out there, 6 months here, and, flip-flop she'd have like 15 years. Well, anytime she would leave, my mom would always clean. That would be her like, I'm going to go purge the house, that thing. And so she would go up there and she would find, my granny actually took the slats out of her bed. And we're talking like a 75-year-old lady at this point. Took the slats out of the bed, lifted up the mattress, and stuffed cases and cases of canned food underneath of it. So like if our house burned down, it'd just be one big aluminum block right there.
So was the bed literally propped up on canned food? That's awesome.
That was the box spring.
Yeah, that is the box spring now.
Yeah, there was no box spring underneath of it. There was no slats to hold the mattress across. It was literally just cases of canned food.
Huh. That gives a whole different perspective of mattress money.
You're right.
Right. You know what, though? I got really deep off into food storage. We were stationed in NOB in Norfolk when Isabel came through.
Yep.
I had 2 toddlers and I was pregnant. And it was like no power for 4 days. Like I was not prepared. And the very next day, Norfolk floods already.
Yeah.
Like all the time, just a regular rain. So for that to had come through and nothing was opened and, we had food in the house and we had a block party. But my young self still didn't, I've never been through anything like that.
Yeah.
So we barbecued and, and then day 2, we were out of food. We were legit sharing the baby snacks, those little puff edibles for toddlers.
Yep.
We were waxing the strawberry bananas. So I will never do this again. So we got into food storage since then. So we keep it's in the basement, not under the mattress, but it is definitely a life lesson. Once you learn it, you keep it always.
Well, what branch of the military did you serve in?
I was Navy.
We don't hold it against her.
I served 8 years, 10 months.
Don't let the 35's obscene, right? That's a ridiculous number,
It is.
right? Like
It
that.
is. Like, why are you overachiever?
I remember having, like, being in our unit and having E7s and E8s. They're like, yeah, I've been here for 31 years. I'm like,
salty
why?
dogs. Salty dogs, yeah.
You just sit here going, yeah, you've been here for longer than I've been alive and will probably be longer than I will be alive when I leave here.
Because that's what they know, though.
Yeah.
The comfort of, I know it, I understand this lifestyle, this is what I can contribute. They still want me to be here. They haven't tried to process me out. Because I remember when the Navy went through the tattoo thing. Like we had salty dogs that was sleeved out and they wanted them to remove their, tattoos, any visible tattoos. It was ridiculous.
They wanted them to remove.
Remove or leave. They didn't care if you had 18 years in. Either do the laser treatment or whatever to get rid of them, any visible showing tattoos, or get out.
That seems crazy.
What?
What would have...
I should be grandfathered in. Like, I could see if this is the standpoint you want to take,
Right.
that's fine. Anyone new coming in, but.
Yeah, that's not like a facial hair adjustment.
Yeah.
That's not like, all right, I can go take care of this. If you're
Right.
talking about having to burn your skin,
Right.
holy smokes.
Yeah.
What drove that?
I have no idea. The good idea fairy. I don't.
Oh, there's
Any-
none
I
of
feel
those
like
in the military.
Anytime there was any changes, it was like, oh, who sat in their office and, doesn't really, they're not in the trenches. Because, our people, like Navy, like even our uniforms back then, I came in the dungaree days. Then we went to utilities. So I like to say that because it's like, oh, we have camis now and we like all these different uniforms. But our chiefs, you had our enlisted folks, our chiefs, our officers, like no one wore the same uniform.
Sure.
And, we used to get a lot of flack for that because they were saying that, you guys try to stand apart from your enlisted folks and, leadership should be wearing the same uniform as their, sailors. But then they changed it to where, because once you achieve the rank of khaki, like you put on that E7 through E9, and it was like,
You earned it.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Right.
I made it.
And the idea
Yeah.
that you would pretend that isn't already a thing, like it just was like, so what you want to do then is if the notion that we want everyone to look identical
Right.
is, so are you trying to remove the concept that we all are aware of, which is we all have rank?
Right.
Like, are you just don't like that? Like, it's
Right.
what are you talking about? Like,
Right.
it's
a lived experience, the achievements, the decorating.
right. Everything that
Right.
everything that's hanging off your chest. It's and it's so funny how averse people are to like that quiet part being just said out loud. I had a coach in college, and he said, "I'm going to treat my performers and like my dogs. I'll treat them like gold, but I'm going to treat my shit like shit.
Mm.
So if you aren't producing for me, you're going to get treated differently.
Yeah.
And if you perform, then you're going to get treated differently."
Yeah.
And I remember when it came out, because he didn't necessarily say that to us directly. He had already said it to the older guys. By the time I had come in, he had already been established for about a year. And they did a documentary where they shared, that story got shared, and people were just appalled by it. And I'm like, you do realize that every single coach on earth does that, right?
Right.
But he's just willing to say it out loud. And now it gets everybody's stuck in their
Yeah.
craw. And it's like,
not PC. Yeah.
but it's like, what are you talking about? Of course it is. If you perform, you get treated differently.
Mhm.
And just remember that if you can't perform, what have you done for me lately? But it's just that it's that quiet part that gets said out loud. It's like, yeah, no, they're going to look differently.
Yeah.
They're going to be dressed differently
Yeah.
because they've earned the ability to not look like everybody else. Because guess what? Newsflash, they're not like everybody else.
I agree.
Well, I mean, that's like, one of the things I talk about in my story is, how all those people are like, oh, you're doing all these great things. I'm like, no, you're just not doing anything. It's like, I don't have to go be special because you're already just doing absolutely nothing.
Mm.
And so I just look better than you just by standing here. I'm automatically going to get different opportunities than you because I did something and you didn't do anything. It doesn't matter what that is. And I know the Navy's like that.
Oh yeah.
I know there's got to be something in the Navy like that.
Oh heck yeah. And the flip side to that coin though, that was by showing up. I don't know, you still had some resistance in, I guess, getting rid of the folks, like having them like administratively separated for being trash bags.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the ones that do show up and can do the job, they were being overworked, And I think you find that in any sector, not just the military. So you had that too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you definitely get those two groups of people who I will do the bare minimum to get by, and then everybody else will do everything.
Yeah.
Because they understand at the end of the day, the goal is this needs to be completed, and you're not going to do about it, so I
Mm.
might as well go do it, because if I don't do it, then it's just not going to get done.
Right.
And then we're all going to get yelled at.
Right.
And, like, I'm all about, like, people getting yelled at. And people, if they need to be bullied so they learn a lesson later in life, like, that's okay. If you need to learn as a kid, don't talk shit to everybody because somebody will knock you out. So be it, because
Right.
when you become an adult and you say something to that dude and he hits you in the face, you can remember, like, oh, yeah, I do remember this is how this works.
And you said it was like 2 groups. There's a group, and then there's 12 other
Yeah.
people that do all of the work.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're at church. It doesn't matter if you are, it doesn't matter if you're part of the
Oh, yeah.
PTO.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Like, church is one of the biggest ones. Like,
I wasn't gonna.
church is one of the biggest ones, because growing up, I remember, man, when there was like 5 families, 6 families, and they just did everything.
Mhm.
And it just was, and you just shoulder that burden for everything to get done.
Mhm.
And so you have a bunch of people that are waiting for somebody to do something, and then you got a very small group of people that are just going to do the doing.
Oh, yeah.
And it just is, that's so consistent. And that's where the burnout happens and all those things that happen. But it is one of those things where it's like, no, it's just own that then. And that's what always gets me fired up, where it's like, if you're part of the group that does the doing, stop expecting the ones that don't to do, because they're not gonna. And they will never do it.
You're right.
So it just is like, well, I just wish they would just shoulder it and they would do it with us, or the more people would be held accountable. It's like, right, but that's not how life works.
Well, yeah, but for that group to be held accountable, somebody has to hold them accountable, and you're still going to end up doing it anyway, and now you have to hold them accountable too.
That part. I was going to say, especially with church, I'm the part of the doer crew.
Yeah.
But I am also out of the doer crew. The doer crew looks to the vocal one. Like, so, Banita, you going, Sister Teixeira, you go, so-and-so was supposed to come this weekend and help clean the church. So I'm very much, I'm the mouthpiece. And I don't mind. You also have to be okay with it too, though. Like, I'm the honorary mouthpiece. That's fine. I can do it. I be diplomatic about it. I can also be straight and to the point, straight no chaser about it too. I guess
you got the other members of the congregation looking at their phone when you're calling. They're like, oh man, I forgot the vacuum on Saturday.
Right. So we're going to put this in plain language in a full text that this was your responsibility. And if you want to come and swoop up this key before, so you can go back and do your part. I don't care if it's 9 in the evening. I mean, make that happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that goes even into teenagers and doing things. Because, like now, you're like, hey, I need you to do the dishes. It's like, okay, cool, I'll do the dishes. Hey, can I go do this? I mean, yeah, you can, but before you even debate walking outside, them dishes might need to be done. And if they're not done and you go, they better be done before I wake up tomorrow.
Oh, that's so cute. You still in the teenage stage. Are you also?
Yeah, so I have a 15, 12, and 9 are my 3 boys.
So if no one's told y'all yet, when you get to the parenting the adult child stage, you would have every teenage year back, every toddler year back, because now they're grown. Now they're grown and making grown-up mistakes that you don't really have any say over, but they will come back to you for rescue after they've told you I'm grown and I can do what I wanted to do. That was a whole, I scolded the mothers of the church and said, this stage you did not prepare us for. I've seen time and time again, y'all talk about these teens and these toddlers and this and that. And I said, nobody said anything about the adult child.
Nobody said
The adult child.
I was not prepared. Not prepared. It's a lot.
Oh, well, it is. I mean,
but that boundary that you get to set, though, you grown now.
Yep.
You won't be able to figure that out. I mean, you don't let them know that you're the life preserve on the other end. You won't let them get messy, get their hand dirty first.
Right. Like, you got plenty of cable out there, but when you get to the end of it,
right,
I'll still pull you back in.
Yeah.
It might take me a while because I'm going to be out there reeling for a long time because you went way out in the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
but you'll eventually get back to the shore.
I think the military taught you that too. Once you came into a NCO position and you had a few folks under you, like how much rope do you give them? How much do you pull back? How much of this is going to affect the
Zero.
astral
You don't
you're
give
gonna
them
get?
any. You don't give them any rope, because if you give them anything, they're gonna take that one little strand and they're gonna split it apart into 15,000 micro slices, and they're still gonna weave a little rope, and they're gonna go all the way out there as far as they can, and then be like, "Hey, will you help me?" Yes, I will. I don't want to, but I will because it's my job.
No, it was always the give 'em enough rope to hang themselves with.
I was about to say, I guess I was hard.
Yeah, no, it was no. It's, you give them rope and you give them just enough, and either they get to handle that slack or they hang themselves, and then it makes it very easy to be able to decide what you want to do next. The best commandants that we ever had over at Fishburne Military School were the guys that had that attitude, which was, I'm not gonna go looking for trouble, but I'm gonna give you enough slack that you will hang yourself first.
Immediately.
Immediately. And then we don't have to worry about it. Oh, you're just not ready for this. And then we can demote you, and then you can work your way back up and have stoop duty and go clean the latrines for the next week and a half or whatever. But those are the ones. So the grown child getting pushed into the Navy, and I said push, that's the wrong. You went into the Navy. What age did you go in?
I was 18, fresh out of high school.
So that's got to be one of those things where if we think about, like, how do we avoid the grown child dichotomy of raising the grown child, do you find that the Navy helped you when you moved into that time period? Because it's probably a window, right? We hope our window is like 18 to 28 for our kids to be able to, those are formidable years where they're going to try and figure it out, right? What's that?
Said 28.
Yeah, 18, 28. Like that window of time where it's like, oh man, if you're going to figure it out, this is the window where you get to play adult. We kind of get to pretend to be adults. I think it's wild because I've been around enough 18, 19-year-olds. There's very, very rarely is there an 18 or 19-year-old that really needs the adult title. That you are not adulting at 18 and 19. Now, there can be different mechanisms that force adulting. So for me, like I was married by 20. So by the time I was married at 20, had a child by 22, and then I was a principal at a school. I was the headmaster at Fishburne by the time I was 24. Wow. Right? So when you think about me at 24 is not a lot of 24-year-olds that I knew, but I had enough adulting. I had so many things where it's like most of 24-year-olds are worried about me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
But I was getting a master's degree with a baby, playing college football, and married. Okay. Like all those responsibilities, that forces some pretty quick adulting really, really fast.
Right.
It's no longer like me and maybe my dog are the only things I have to worry about.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah.
So that's the only way. Like it's
That's fair.
unless life forces you to kind of like grow up quickly.
Right.
But outside of that, it seems like the only way then, and I can play devil's advocate as I'm even asking the question or looking to get your opinion as well, where it's like the military is going to force responsibility in a really contained way where you have enough parameters that are maybe just keeping you right in this lane. But it's still kind of, it's almost, pretend is the wrong word, but like it's controlled. It's a controlled environment where now you get to kind of test responsibility and try and minimize the true risk.
Yes. I can see where you're coming from, and much like you, I was already adulting for quite some time by the time I joined the Navy. I was living in a home my grandmother owned, but I had been on my own since I was 15. My mom kind of skipped out, and Dad was never present. So when she skipped out, we were already living in a property only 3 blocks away from her primary residence. So I had been adulting for, a few years before going into the military.
Yeah.
So by the time I got there, because even like experience in boot camp, like you're being yelled at and you sleep deprived, and it's, some of the girls that were in, my unit were devastated. Like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. Why are they yelling at us? And what do you mean we don't get, an hour to get ready in the morning? Like it was a lot for them. And for me, it was just like, this sucks. I'm so sleepy, but I'm good.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, in our first 2 weeks, they call them P days because you didn't have like your uniforms. We called them Smurfs because it was just PT gear.
Yeah.
Your blue PT gear. And we couldn't march for nothing. We couldn't stay in step. We couldn't we couldn't line up. It was really bad. And we shambled from, they called our barracks ships to get us used to naval terminology.
Sure.
And we were in the last ship, so that was ship 12. Marched down to the Navy Exchange to make your first phone call in the phone booth.
I remember
with your
those
phone
days.
card.
Yeah,
I don't know the age,
Zach, because I remember seeing
ages
photos of those.
people who are listening.
Oh no, we had
so-
those. It wasn't even you get the opportunity to remember that. No, like that was a thing.
Yeah.
We had those.
Okay. So we get down there and he's yelling at us the whole time, get in step, get in step. And we all line up to make our first phone call. He lets us, take the phone receiver off, and we hear the dial tone. Hang up the phones, get back in line, and just turned around and went back to the ship. And those girls, I had never seen crying like ugly crying. Like, one girl cried so hard she threw up. We had to stop and let her get her life together. It was bad. It was bad, and it was so devastating to them. And I remember feeling the two things that, life has prepared me. And I don't know, I guess you can kind of feel like, oh, poor baby. But, I'd been through so much, like this is a walk in the park. This isn't the worst of the worst. And I'm sure this isn't the worst that we're ever going to go through while we're here.
Sure.
But then to say that you guys must have really been loved and cared for, that this is devastating to you,
Oh, it goes back to that saying you said about what is your grandmother said, the idea the good Lord will put you on your back.
Yes, so you can look up. Yeah.
And my dad used to say, he goes, you better just learn the lessons now, because he wasn't quite as eloquent as your grandmother was, but he says like life's going to kick you in the balls, and you're going to learn the lesson.
Right.
So either you learn it the easy way, or it'll make sure you learn it the hard way. And for him, it was always like, there's a certain number of lessons we all got to learn. So you might as well watch and learn from other people's mistakes. Otherwise, you're going to have to learn it like head on. Yeah. But it's the exact same thing where as you're thinking about watching these people where you'd be like, oh, you must have been bubble wrapped your whole life. Because we haven't even gotten to the hard part. It's like, this is a Tuesday. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is, every person that we've talked to when they have that attitude about boot camp and going through those phases, everybody just leans on like how much it sucked. And Baldwin is sticking out in my mind where he's just like, I had dealt with such terrible circumstances before I got there. He goes, I can't even say that I wish I hadn't, because all that turmoil that I went through made it so when I got there, I was ready. Like I had already been through so much that it just, putting words into his mouth, but it's like essentially it fortified him in a way that made him excellent at being a Marine.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in basic training, and like it wasn't difficult by any means. Yes, you're going to do stupid things and have to do all this other, retarded. My thing the whole time I was there was I was just so angry because I was surrounded by stupidity. I'm like, damn it, man. Like, all you have to do is do what they say. Like, it's not hard. You don't have to think about anything. And, like, I remember standing out there in our dress blues on the day we're going through, like, graduation practice. And the dude behind me is just running his mouth. And I turned around, I hit this dude square in the balls and was like, shut up. Like, I'm not trying to get these dirty before tomorrow. And then turn back around. And everybody's like, yep, that happened. Nobody says a single word. They're like, all right, well, we have reached that breaking point. Yeah. Good job.
The peers will straighten them out. I felt that way as an NCO plenty of times.
Oh,
like
yeah.
if you don't get it from me, kind of like a parent and with multiple children, like your siblings will get you straight because collectively as a whole, we are all paying for your stupidity. So
Yeah.
get right.
Well, and you're in a unique scenario now because now you've been that 18-year-old, and now your daughter is also there, right?
How's that?
For who? For her? Or for me?
I guess there's some catharsis, it sounds like. There's definitely some catharsis in that tone. Yeah,
Oh,
let's hear
yeah.
from your side, Mom.
Oh, I'm such a mom. Like I felt like I've never, like, I didn't coddle the kids and
Mhm.
did the bubble wrapping, but I definitely would say that my kids were afforded a lifestyle that I didn't have
Sure.
at their age and coming up. So they just naturally did not have the same life experiences and do not have I was going to say street cred. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Street smarts,
Street
probably.
smarts. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
They some of that just they don't have in the same way that I had.
It's just
at
by
their
nature,
age.
by not going through the same experience. Yeah.
Exactly. Not being growing up in a toxic environment or having a loving parent that was there. So it's some of those things. But but they all have a good head on their shoulders. They all are like I don't have to worry about
Right.
them being in the world. But then you have your youngest daughter going to the Marine Corps. I said, you chose the hardest hill to climb? Like, I mean, okay, fine. If you want to go to the military, that's fine. I mean, both of your parents served.
Go
We
be in
can
the
do
Space
this.
Force.
Legit, right? Like Space Force, Air Force, something.
Yeah.
Like he's something safe and administrative, and not to I don't want anyone from those branches hearing us say that like you guys are powder puffs. I'm just saying it's the
It's okay.
kinder of
Hold,
the.
hold on.
I
though.
can say that it's fine.
Come on. Yeah, but like if we're talking about a comparative analysis of all the branches.
Well, I mean, they say
No
that
one-
about Navy too, though. I was Navy, and they're
Of
like,
course, but if we're going to compare if you're going to get compared, anyone gets compared to the Marines.
okay,
Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that's a whole nother
Okay.
animal.
Thank you.
Like the Marines do get to literally on anyone else.
Thank you.
Because
Yes.
and Zach was the one on one of our episodes. He did a really great job of breaking down. It was probably for your episode, Zach, where it was just like, I'm not going to go die for the Marine flag. Like, because it just was like, it's Marines
Yeah.
and then America.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that is a whole, it's a totally different animal. So totally fair, which is like, hold on, you're going to choose the gnarliest option
Right.
possible.
Right.
Especially and the weight behind your words are my youngest daughter, right? Like it's like, like it's just the weight of like, I have known you since you came into this world, and Marines, baby, is not on on your skill set yet.
Talk about it. I mean, as smart as she is, and I mean, you got to meet her, right?
Yep.
Zach, when she came, she is definitely she's the heart of us. She's the one who's always had someone's back. She rallies for the underdog. Like she was a shield for a lot of people when she was in school, like the bully, you need to get through me before you get to, Sarah over there. I'll whoop you. It like she was that
She's
that
basically
personality type.
Yeah, she's the sheepdog,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very love that.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
and I'm not going to take credit for that, right? That's from to be fair, it's a good one, right?
Great
Like it's
analogy, yes.
no, it's that comes from American Sniper, right? Bradley Cooper, right?
Oh.
Plays.
Yeah.
So his father, right, is raising the boys, and his dad has this really pivotal moment. They're all at the dinner table when they're young, and he's just breaking it down for his boys. He's like, "There's sheep, and then there's wolves, and then there's sheepdogs."
Mm.
And he goes, "You will never be a wolf. Your job in this life is to be a sheepdog." Because the one brother, I think the younger brother, who ends up becoming, right, is the American Sniper, right? He's standing up and gets into a fight to protect his older brother.
Mm.
And that's where it's just like, no, you're not going to get your ass whooped. Because like the dad's taking his belt off, right, at the dinner table. And the wife is worried he's about to beat the shit out of the boys. And he just puts his belt, he's just like, and he's getting fired up. And he's just like, why did this fight happen? And so the boy breaks it down. Like, I was protecting my brother. And the dad just makes it clear. It's like, you will only ever be a sheepdog. Like, that is your role in this life. Yeah. And it is. That was me for my younger brother.
Yeah.
No one was alive. If anybody's going to kick him, it's going to be me. But nobody else is allowed to touch him. Oh, yeah. But see, my youngest is this way.
And she's very, very protective, very, and then she's a substantial girl too. Like, she was the tallest of her sisters and the most muscular and stuff too. So she bring it too physically. So it's almost like I can see the role that you chose and why you came into alignment with them, but still, like, my mama heart was like, why?
What are you doing?
Right. And so, to receive her first letter too, because I was trying not to be like the helicopter mom, because I've never been that, and it was like, but I'm not used to feeling this way too, because I've been in control of their environment, and now they've left me, and it's like, I need the reins. Where's the reins at? And I waited. They said that I would receive a letter 10 days into her being there. That didn't come. So week 3 came, and I'm like, okay, we haven't received anything yet. I don't know what her address is or, any of these things. And I reached out to the recruiter and was like, I don't want to be that mom. I don't want to be, calling whoever at Paris Island, where's my kid? I don't want to be that. But I'm feeling.
But where's my kid?
Right, I'm feeling all of that. And then finally, 3 weeks in, we got the first letter from the drill instructor. I have your recruit. I'm like, she's not even Sierra. She's a recruit. And
I
all
have
that.
Papa 0135.
Yeah, right. So I kind of, the vice grip around my heart has lessened. Still there, but
still
it's lessened. And still, just being a sound support for her and letting her know that, she has what it takes. And even at the end of the day, if for whatever reason you're injured or, something, you have a strong foundation to come home to, and don't think of it as a failure. Just think of it you tested yourself. This is what you were able to achieve. And be able to walk away from it with your your sense of self still intact.
So I think that's important
them to break her
for kids. I mean,
totally.
in the world today, to understand when they look at like the concept of failure itself.
Yeah.
And everybody's taught now, oh yeah, everybody gets trophies. No, you don't get a trophy. However, if you put forth maximum effort and give everything you have to a goal and you don't achieve that goal, that is okay. However, when you give half-ass effort and then you're like, oh yeah, I didn't get there, but I could have if I had done this. Well, could you? Yeah, because you don't know. But if you test yourself to the absolute max in a scenario and apply everything that you possibly can and still fail, that's a lesson you need to learn. That is okay. And that's acceptable for you to not get there. Yeah. Because we don't all get everything we want. If you go buy a lottery ticket and you don't win, like, that's okay. There's 10 million other people who bought that same ticket and didn't win either.
I like that. That's basically what I would tell them about their grades.
Yeah.
Like, that C will look like an A to me as long as I know that you gave 100% in your best effort.
Right.
That's what you were able to
as long as you give me everything you have to get there, like, I'm okay with it. Yeah. But if you don't, I'm going to be pissed.
Right.
And you bring me a D in weightlifting, and I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? How did you get a D in weightlifting? It's like glorified PE, and you write your own, script for what you're supposed to do, and I'm certified to do this. So, like, you could have easily just asked me a question, and you have a D, now I'm going to be mad.
Yeah. And she learned a little bit of that. She was in softball. She was in MMA, jiu-jitsu. So she learned, some of that just from competing and training and stuff.
Oh, she about to go whip these kids' asses.
I don't know. And that sheepdog was already present. So just
Now you just give her tools.
Looking at some of the, right. But listening to some of the letters, like the first letter was, the yelling isn't as bad as I thought it would be. And, I'm so tired and my body hurts. And then a couple letters after that is like, they're starting to piss me off. These girls need to get their stuff together. You talk about unsanitary in all block letters. Like, I've never seen nastiness like this, Mom.
Welcome to Paris Island.
Exactly. And then her coming to bat for some of the girls who, because, people will easily identify the person that will act as protector. And so my advice though was, don't let people get comfortable hiding behind your skirt. Like don't feel that you need to take bullets for everyone, for everything, because they're there to learn and achieve some things too. You don't have to, it's not your job to shield them from that, but to encourage and work as a cohesive team, while you're there. But that's already
yeah, they have to learn to not hide. Yeah. That's part of what they're there to learn.
Right.
And it's the adversity piece, right? So it's going back. It's like you have to have friction and adversity. And it goes back to your idea too of like, so along the idea of raising your kids have a better experience than you did, a better upbringing than you did, right? And that was obviously by design. That was the purpose. And it's a double-edged sword. Yeah. My wife and I, I had a dark thought months ago and we were having this conversation. And I'm like, do you think we need to like abuse the kids a little bit more? Like just a random Tuesday, throw them into like a darkened closet that's like broken bottles on the ground, just leave them there overnight. I said, because do you think we love them too much and it's going to fuck them up? Because I'm like, I haven't heard of anyone that does anything that's worth doing that doesn't have some horrible adversity that causes them to rise above it, right? Yeah. And obviously, we have yet to start doing that. I mean, it could, I'm not saying we won't eventually, but it was one of those things where it was like, it's because you hear these people, our stories are never, they're never great. They're never great. Yeah. Because it forces, right? It's all those old cheesy adages of like, well, pressure makes diamonds and all these types of things. But there is so much to that. Mm-hmm. All of us have stories. And my favorite one is Michael Jordan talking about it, because he talked about making up fake stories to force him to create these moments of adversity that weren't real, but he manufactured them. So when he would go into a game against somebody else, he would manufacture a story about the player he was playing against that had slighted him. And he would literally have conversations with them on the court about things that they didn't do or say. And just because it was, and of course, obviously, the mind manipulation of mind games would just be outrageous.
Well, yeah, because they all thought he was crazy.
But he would create these fake scenarios that would cause him to get fired up and be able to then take it out against this individual because the adversity wasn't there, it wasn't real, but he would manufacture them.
Oh, I have to look that up. Oh, so like just straight up dribbling in front of me. So you dated my girlfriend?
He talks. So it's The Last Dance. So in that series, The Last Dance, he shares those stories where he would just make stuff up.
Wow.
For himself. And we even had for coaches one of a huge game that we went to go play. The coaches put all these quotes up on the walls everywhere we were. So it was bowl week, and so you're in this one place for a whole week, and they control your environment every single moment of every day. And everywhere we went, whether it was meeting rooms or where we went to go to eat, there would be quotes from all talking heads around college football talking about how badly we were going to be beat, how bad the defense was, how bad everything, how we're going to get crushed and all these things. I didn't know until my coach wrote his biography that it was all fake. So we hated Kirk Herbstreit. We hated that man because we had all these quotes of him just talking mad on us because we were getting ready to go play Ohio State. And we hated that guy. And it wasn't until we read his book and he was just like, no, we made all that up. That was all fake. It was all fake. And I'm like, well, damn it, I don't have to hate that guy as much anymore because, man, I hated that guy. But it was the same idea.
Did it do the job?
It did the job because we came in
Winning.
We were pissed and we won. So we were super pissed going into it, and it was all fake. But it's that notion too for your daughter where you got to realize that if you're taking the bullets, you are actually stopping that individual from getting that adversity to then learn or grow from that where they need to. Right. Now there's that fine line, which is, and for me, I've always resonated with this, and it was for my little brother as well, which is like, if I see someone that's clearly in a power dichotomy where they are at risk and someone is now like being the bully and they're taking advantage of someone that's weaker, like that's where, like for me, it just is like, I will end up stepping in. So there's always that fine line, but there's that element where it's like, no, I kind of, and the same as for parenting, was like, I kind of need to watch you guys work this out. Like I need you to figure this out. Because if you can't I can't protect you, because if I protect you, you're not going to learn the lesson. I'll just keep you from dying.
Right.
Because I remember for us at the military school, there was elements of like, so certainly in like school environments, the thing that they'll tell staff is if there's a fight, you do not intervene. Because if you intervene, you're going to catch a hook. Like you're going to get hit.
Right.
So if you go stick your chin in there, you're going to now get hit. And now the kid that hits you, now they've hit a staff member. And now there's a whole nother problem for that kid, which never should have been introduced. So a lot of times when we would have a fight that would break out, it's going to be done in 30 seconds. They're going to get out of breath. Like these kids aren't built to fight. But the only time that you would step in is like, oh no, like that kid is at risk. So now you step in. But that would be the only time that you would really step in. Otherwise, you just let them get tired and then separate. But it just is, but it's like kind of that. But at the same time, it's like you ran your mouth for 42 minutes and that kid was tired of it by 43. So you're going to catch some hands and I'm going to let you learn that lesson for about 12 seconds and then I'll step in so you don't get curb stomped. But the reality is you're going to need to learn this lesson a little bit. Yeah. But that is certainly not PC. That is certainly not PC. And nobody's going to ever put that into a reg book. But the reality is that that's what's real.
PC. Well, I mean, that goes back to what I said earlier of like some kids need to be bullied so that they learn lessons in life. And it's true. I mean, because you can't just go around life and say whatever you want to whoever you want to, because somebody eventually is going to have something else to say about it, and it's not going to be verbal.
Right.
So you talked about NCO. So tell me about that story. As you come in at 18, what are the different jobs that you have throughout your 8 years that you're in there that are worth noting? There's things that are out there for sure.
Well, I fresh out of boot camp, being a female, I joined in 98, August of 98. So graduating boot camp, they still, from a female's perspective, it is still very much a male's military, and we get to participate. Because it's not like split down the middle. It's not, if there's 50 male racks, there's going to be 50 female racks. That's not how it works. So graduating boot camp, they sent me to an all-officer squadron in Pensacola, Florida, Turon 4, right next to the Blue Angels. And I remember getting off the plane, and I'm in the middle of nowhere in a literal airfield with a shack and a phone booth. And they said, here's the phone number. Call the on-duty officer to come get you. It's night. It's dark 30. Nobody's out here. And I'm 18. Now, street smarts, yes, but I'm in a field in the middle of Florida. Where the hell am I going? I call the duty officer and I get there. So I check into this squadron and they're perplexed. What the hell are you doing here? We don't have any enlisted personnel here. So let me see your orders. Showing the orders. And I really don't know why you're here. You're not training to fly a helicopter. Like, why are you here? I'm just doing as told. What am I supposed to do?
The piece of paper said to get on the plane and get off the plane here. That's what I did.
This part, and it's like 2:00 in the morning. The duty officer's pissed because it's like almost an hour drive to come and get me from this airfield in the middle of nowhere. They don't know what to do with me. They've never checked an enlisted person into the barracks. Like it was a lot. He out of his own pocket got me a hotel room on base because he didn't know what to do with me. It was wild. So I stayed there for 2 years. They ended up getting.
I stayed there for 2 years. They don't know what to do with me. They have no processes whatsoever.
They
to
tried to
handle it.
cancel my orders. They were trying to send me to where he was like, "You're a sailor. You're a seaman. You're supposed to go to a boat. You weren't supposed to be here. You fell between the cracks." But there was no racks for me. They couldn't send me anywhere. So I ended up staying at this really cush, like a retirement. Like that's
It is Florida.
I mean, yeah, you're in the Gulf.
Granted.
Horrible place to have to stay.
No, I was leaning on the senior facility, like 55 and up area. You're like, well, they're good that they at least have those facilities.
They had
got those
jack.
facilities.
Pensacola had nothing when I was there. Absolutely nothing. And then they ended up getting 4 more seamen, like E1s, fresh out of boot camp females that like they just tossed them to wherever there were, I guess, billets. So my first 2 years didn't prepare me for the rest, right? So I'm in this cush, not learning how to be a sailor. We showed up, we mustered in the morning, we did FOD walk down, and then we had the rest of our day to do whatever. So for my first 2 years was partying and having a great time, and then I got sent to my first boat. After that, the USS Kearsarge, and I didn't even know how to come, permission to come aboard. Like I forgot all of that stuff that they taught you in boot camp. So I had a very rude awakening once I got there, and just the culture. I mean, the culture with being with flight instructor officers compared to my own people, enlisted personnel, and not knowing the hierarchy of things, and how to get things done in boat life. It was very much feeling like you had to start over.
What was the boat that you were on?
The Kearsarge, the USS Kearsarge. It was a LHD.
Okay.
A Marine. So we were Marine Corps taxi for the most part.
Okay.
We housed their LCAT. So most of my naval training and learning what my job was and what expectations were and things came from that enlistment. So I went from there to the Kearsarge, and then fell into that dichotomy again where there's not billets for females on the boat. So then they'd push you, whether you were an airman or not, to squadrons a lot of times. So I was with Health Combat Ron 2, which was a Hilo squadron for H-46s. Went to VFW 126, and that was a fixed wing. The fixed wing aircraft with the radio dial. So went there, and then the Harry S. Truman. So.
And then what was your job?
I was an operations specialist. I was a seaman coming in undesignated. I did my first. So this was weird. So I kind of fell through the cracks again, going from one command to the next, because I tested for aviation ordnanceman, and was I passed that test, so I could have put on that rate. However, that paperwork kind of got lost in the mail.
Your entire career so far is lost between the cracks or lost in the mail.
Yeah.
And showing up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, once I got to the Kearsarge, that's where I would have put on AO if I stayed there like maybe 6 more months. But I was transitioning to another duty station then, and they, for whatever reason, that paperwork never got to me. So I ended up being an operations specialist. But again, an operations specialist at a squadron. So we disseminated message traffic, dealt with the kick 13s. So we disseminated the message traffic from the squadron to the boat, the squadron to the boat to the aircraft. That was what our main thing was. But that's where I started putting on rank and put on an NCO position.
That's when you got an actual job.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the midst of that, having to go through 9/11, I was with Health Combat Ron 2 then. So that was definitely an experience also.
How did that evolve? Coming in 98, and then obviously you're don't even realize that just 3 short years later, things had to have shifted radically.
Yeah.
How did that, what was the biggest change when 9/11 goes down?
Like it was the reality check of, like, I don't know. I think growing up as Americans, we feel untouchable, like we are the biggest, baddest out there, and, to take on an attack on American soil, it felt like, because I remember being in the ship in our squadron store. Actually, at the time we had a break. I was working on the flight line then. Just came in to grab a drink, and they usually had TVs playing in there, and you can only have like C-SPAN on, or where there's nothing good. And there's this movie playing on the TV, and you're seeing this tower get hit, and there's fire and there's smoke and there's yelling and stuff, and everyone's watching TV, and I'm like, dude, Chief C is down the hall. Like, what the hell are y'all doing? Turn this off. So it was very like a disembodiment. Like, is this really happening? And what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
Like I had a toddler at that time. She's at daycare. What's about to happen? The base goes on lockdown, and and you got sent to action. We're preparing to for folks to get shipped out, and either you were being shipped out or you were being support. And I was support at the time because I was on the shore duty side. Hell Sea Combat Run 2 had sea and shore billets, and I was on a shore billet at the time. So we were support systems, but it was very real, very, there is no fun and games anymore. You're not, arguing with Steve that wants to go to the smoke deck. You're, in action. This is what we're trained to do. So things got very real, very quick. And that was the posture that we were in for almost 2 years.
If you weren't on shore billet, how would things have been different?
I would have been deployed,
Yeah.
whatever battle group. And I did end up being deployed a little after that. I was on the last bit of my shore duty then, and that's when I got to the Truman. But I was air wing for the Truman. So if you're not connected to a boat, you are you're the air wing, so you're part of ship's attachment. So you deploy when that ship's company deploys.
Sure.
So that's how I was on the Truman when I was connected to VFW 126. And we were out there for a little over a year.
Where was there?
In the Gulf.
So you stayed primarily in the Gulf.
Yes. And just sat on water. So my experience with the Kearsarge, it was great. You did a deployment, and then we called them cruises back then. So it was, you get what I mean? Like, it was, yeah. I'm port hopping and, drinking ouzos in Greece, and, margaritas in Puerto Rico. And like, it was a hell of an experience. St. Lucia's Jazz Festival was there. And
that's awesome.
We got to do a little, can. And like, it was a great experience. And that juxtaposed position to being on the water because we're in conflict and sitting, and that carrier can hold a little over 5,000 people when everyone's on board, when ship's company.
It's just like the big cruises now.
But when we're not deployed, though, we have less than half of them.
Of course.
And that boat gets very small when everyone's on board, and then you're sitting, and the stress of it. And we didn't have, Facebook, we probably did have Facebook, but we didn't have cell phones and
right,
stuff like that. So you couldn't, there was no outside, communications, and you're just stuck on the water.
Getting real good at chess.
Yeah.
Yeah, passing the time.
Well, but I was a part of the flight folks, so we weren't as bad as the reactor guys. I don't know if you've ever met any nuclear reactor.
They're a special breed. Yeah, nukes in the Navy is a special breed.
Very special. And they're like 4 on, 4 off, like when we're underway. So it's they operate on a way different level. But the flight guy, where air crew is very much like that, but we're more like maybe 6 on, 6 off. So it's still very much you're in the crash shelter, you're sleeping, standing up, catching aircraft. So it was very hectic and very, wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
Type of scenarios, and you don't know, because when you're in on a carrier, you're an island. It's like if you're gonna hit anything, you're gonna hit the biggest thing in the water, So you had those thoughts too. But
what was the legitimate concern being in the Gulf with a theoretical enemy that is landlocked, forever away? What were you all theoretically preparing for in that conflict when it's okay with Afghanistan and then Iraq and then that, but it's being in the Gulf? What were you all theoretically preparing for, or worried about, or what was?
Well, my constant worry, like I said, you're a sitting duck. You're in the water. They can send torpedoes or whatever to wherever you are, and who we're sending out, because we had Marines on board. They're most everyone, we were the docking station for them to go, to land from
yeah,
where we are.
You're basically a sitting target.
Yeah.
Right.
Of what they would like to hit.
Yeah. So that even though you're there, your ship's support, like I said, you're sending these folks out, but you're like, yeah, don't look for me.
Yeah,
Please
you're like,
don't.
I am the bullseye.
Don't
but
sink
don't
our
see
island.
it.
Right. Please don't sink our island over here. So that was a constant. That was a constant fear. And being in conflict, when you're on a cruise, everything that you, especially if you're not able to hit port comes to you. So you have vert rep and unrep. Unrep is where another ship comes side by side with your ship.
Yeah.
They have the conveyor belts across from this ship to this one, and they're sending, supplies over. And then a vert rep is usually a helo that would drop a helo or a sea knight.
Yeah.
So they would come and drop your mail, your, supplies. And then if
my
you're
Skittles by conveyor belt or by airdrop.
By airdrop.
Right. So, or, and then sitting out there, you can only pump and dump during certain times or certain areas. So sometimes things would be secured to, like bathroom, like you're crapping on top of crap. Like you can't flush a toilet, there's no running water. And this can go on for, a day or more. And it's like the smell that whole experience, you don't, there's no way for like a recruiter to prepare you.
Nor would they ever.
For that, right.
They're like, nah, you got your
Right.
A-tool, you just go out there and dig you a hole somewhere. That's
Right.
what you get in the Army.
Yeah. So yeah. So some of those things that you just couldn't fathom that you would be, dealing with, were dealt with. It was definitely an experience.
And you're confused why your daughter went Marines.
Well,
That's so.
She didn't want to be on the water.
Yeah,
She said that she couldn't,
I bet.
she couldn't deal with that. Though she did pass her swim qual. That was in the last letter. So
Floating porta potty. Yep, can't imagine why.
That's exactly. Really selling it for anybody that might be thinking about going Navy.
yeah, with 80 women to a berthing usually. So it's a heck of an experience.
Yep, nope. Good. Even though I was lucky, like for all of our Army exercises or anything that we ever had to go, to school for or anything, I was never in a gigantic bay of 80 people for anything.
No.
Like even when I was in basic training, the biggest bay, we had 80-man bays. I was just not in an 80-man bay. I was in a 12-man bay.
You're fortunate.
And they were like, yeah, normally we would put more people in here, but we're trying to scatter you guys out throughout the building. I'm like, oh, I understand. It's okay.
If I have to.
Like,
Right.
I'll live. The downside of that was our bay was literally right outside the drill instructor office. Like the staff duty office,
Yeah.
the door was right next to our door. Like you went from the outside into their office, into the hallway. Well, when you went in the hallway, our bay door was right there. And by door, I mean the open space for where our bay was.
Gotcha.
So anytime they ever needed anybody to do anything, all they would do is open the door.
Mm.
And they'd be like, we need, I'm like, okay, here we go. And you like look around and you're like, all right, there's 10 guys who are closer to the door than me. They need 6 guys. There's 5 people moving.
Mm.
And there's still 5 people moving. Damn it. All right, I'm coming.
So 8 years. Do you have all your babies? Well, in that 8 years?
Mm.
What was that like? You've shared a little bit about being a mother or being a female, but now being a female is one thing, but then actively having babies while you're doing all these things, that had to have introduced unique challenges.
Copious struggles.
Right?
Yeah. Because we were I think it was 2006, we achieved spouse co-location, which still we thought at least someone would be. Spouse co-location is when you can put in a request to be stationed at the same place as your spouse. So
That was going to be my next question, which is, where's your husband during this entire time? Because you both are enlisted.
Right. So, and you can both be stationed either on the same base or at least near each other, which we were near. We weren't on the same base.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like 50 miles or something.
Yeah. So he was on Little Creek base, amphibious base, and I was on NOB. So they were close to each other. But it's supposed to be one of you will be on shore and one will at least be sea duty and swap it out that way. However, my husband, even though he was on shore duty, got sent to Gitmo,
which is geographically right next to NOB.
No,
Geographic.
but it is because as long as on paper, we put him where he was supposed to be. We could send the body anywhere, you know.
Yep.
So it definitely made things difficult and had to do, your local parentis and ask Auntie so-and-so, can you keep my kid for 6 months to a year? If you don't mind. If you don't
no big
mind,
deal.
I'll be back.
I'll send some money, So
Holy smokes.
it definitely did put some pressures on things and figuring out the logistics of it. And kids are resilient. I ask my daughters, because what was weird? Just a quick side note. When we moved here to the Valley, it was in 2012. Now, mind you, my husband and I separated in 2007. So it's 2012 when we're here. And they had a Veterans Day ceremony. And I remember my daughter was thrust into 6th grade. My eldest child was thrust into 6th grade because 6th grade in Portsmouth, Virginia was still elementary school. So she got here and it was all of a sudden she's in middle school.
Middle school, yeah.
And we moved here in April. And so it's a new school, the tail end of schools, all of the things. The following year, when she had the Veterans Day ceremony, she was 7th grade then, and they were doing a thing for Veterans Day where you had to talk about, a service member. If you don't know any service members, blah, blah, blah. She didn't, mom and dad, it was almost like, yeah, I had this experience, but I was little and it was so far removed in her mind by then that it's almost like she was talking about other people. Hey,
Mom, do you know anybody?
Yes, basically. I know you guys did something with the military, but do you know, or did our grandpa, or our grandpa? That's your grandfather is who your mind went to, and you were a Navy brat. What are you talking about?
You were there.
Right. That was so wild to me.
And knowing you, I can only imagine this conversation and your facial expression in this as she's asking these questions, and you're just like, yeah. Do I know anyone? Hold on. Let me check my contacts in my phone real quick.
Right. Do we got any pictures of Granddad in his uniform? Like, so it's funny to me because kids were very resilient, and granted, they were really young. They were toddlers and going into elementary school by the time we separated, but it did not hurt them in the way that I thought that it would. It hurt us because there were so many chunks of, I don't know about, her first this or that.
Right.
Outside of what I've been told by the family members that had them. So that was hard for me. And that ultimately is why I separated. Because a lot of people look to the amount of time that I had in, and it was like, dude, you could have been retired in like 10 years. Like, why would you do that? Because my daughters needed me.
Right.
And I was able to walk away from my military experience with good experiences and some bad, but altogether I wouldn't have traded it for the world. But I definitely prioritized what was most important to me, and that was family.
Oh, it's a very similar story.
That's basically mine. You look at, I was at 9.5, and I get the same conversations of, well, why didn't you just stay? I'm like, well, because what I wanted to do when I entered the Army and what I wanted when I left the Army were not the same thing anymore.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that's a hard thing for them to like wrap their brain around.
Right.
Because they're like, well, no, like you could have just retired in 10 years. Well, yeah, I could, but ultimately, like, that's not in the deck of cards I'm playing with anymore. You're talking about playing with Uno, and I'm in poker right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't cross these things.
Well, and I don't want to play that game anymore.
Right.
I'm ready to actually shift games.
Yeah.
Because I have the identical story. I don't know if the listeners know, and you wouldn't know this, I don't have any military background.
Oh.
0. I just look like it. Right?
You could have fooled me.
And so it's fair to say it, right? So most of my
bald, buff dude.
But most of my stories is why it's college football, right? I went to college, played football, military, the way I always talk about it. It wasn't on the menu where I was growing up. It just wasn't a thing. Like It was never talked about. And there's more stories behind that, but not for today. But the reality is for me, for college football, my goal was always to go to the NFL. So everything I did was geared towards that singular goal. But my final year, so my wife and I get married, my second to last year playing, I'm married, we have a baby on the way. My senior year, while I'm getting my master's degree, I go to pro day, I do all those things. And I just said, I'm done playing. And my wife to this day is just like, you stopped playing football because of us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, you don't understand. It's if I wanted to go play and go, if I wasn't going to go to the NFL and didn't get to a spring camp, we could have gone to Europe or we could have gone to Canada. We could have done lots of things, but I didn't want to play the game anymore. I was done. I didn't want to drag my family all over the world to jump from one team to the next. Cause most of the guys that you play, people don't understand it. Guys, if you have a 7 or 10 year career with the NFL, you can play for 7 different teams, which means you're dragging your family all over the country every year, sometimes twice a year. And so for me, it just was like, no, I want to be here. I want to be with you guys. I want to do this thing. That was my choice. It wasn't because I had to.
Right.
It was, that's what I decided. And the game changes. The goal was always to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
But it's not a failure of not going. It's not a failure for not having retired or get to the retirement or put in your 20 years or whatever it is. It's just the game changes. The game that you want to play changes. And it's not because you were forced into it. It's like, no, I chose this. Like Zach and Leah's story of like really consciously deciding this, our exit strategy is this, we're going to execute it when we know we're ready to do it. And for you, it's like, no, my babies need me.
Yeah.
I was willing to do these things, and I'm just not willing to do that anymore.
Right. And kids were always on the table for me. Like having a family, having that nucleus was always going to be on the table. I didn't know how I was going to navigate it. I
Right.
didn't have the full picture, and I didn't have anyone with a lived experience that I can say, hey, be my model, my blueprint. I didn't have that either, but I knew that I wanted that. So, and the kids don't ask to be here either, just because you decided that you were ready for them. Well, what you gonna do with that? Mom, you need to make it happen because we also need you.
Right.
So it was very much not a hard decision.
We're ending on that. Thank you very much for coming and sitting with us.
No, thanks for having me. It was a nice surprise.